Programming on 90.7 WKGC and the Commodore Sports Network is sponsored by Sweet Bay. Sweet Bay is a bayfront village in Panama City that features parks, walking trails to the water, a future town center, and more. A community connected at the water's edge, Sweet Bay. More information about Sweet Bay online at sweetbayfl.com or 844-35-SWEET.
This is Coach's Corner.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Coach's Corner from Gulf Coast State College. I'm Greg Sherrod, and it's good to have you along as we get set for the 2020 baseball and softball season for the Gulf Coast Commodores and Lady Commodores. And joining us is the new coach of the Lady Commodores, Scott Thomas. Scott, it's good to see you.
Yeah, Greg, nice to meet you,
yes,
man.
It's great meeting you. Scott, his initial year at Gulf Coast, coming here from Virginia Tech, Blacksburg.
Yeah.
You spent 23 years there.
Yeah, I actually spent more time than that. You know, that's where I grew up. That's my hometown, too. So, other than about 5-6 years at East Tennessee State, complete my education there. Blacksburg's home, and, it's so funny being here. The people are very much the same, and just a lot of country people and stuff. A lot of people I've known, so I feel very comfortable here. We got a beach instead of the mountains.
That's fantastic. I mean, I've heard so much great stuff about Blacksburg and Blacksburg folks too. You won close to 800 games there, coaching the Hokies and going to the regionals and a College World Series too. Yeah,
we were very fortunate. We had some really good years. Started the program from scratch. I was the very first one, so that was always something that I've always been proud of, and being able to take it all the way to the World Series. Almost 800 wins. It's hard to believe. All of them right there. I think we're about 6 away or something like that. And we had, the interesting thing was went from the Atlantic 10, then to the Big East, and then the ACC. So it was, being able to coach in 3 different leagues and really see Virginia Tech grow as a program, having grown up in Blacksburg and being a big sports fan. Yeah. Man, that was huge, and something I was very proud of, and things you can't really expect that you're going to do as a coach, but things that I was very proud of. Yeah.
Now, in the infancy, starting out, remember how it was with women's softball at the time? It really came on strong, but when it started, you had to bring in special coaches and stuff with the fast pitch and all that.
Oh yeah, it's funny. We had my very first pitching coach was Rebecca Ace, who played at Florida State. And I called up Joanne Graff as when I called around the top. Called around the top coaches in the country that had won their conferences, and one was Coach Graff at Florida State, and we're still friends. Yeah. And it was kind of funny because I said, "Hey, you got anybody that could coach pitching for me?" And she goes, "Hey, I got one. She's over playing in the Netherlands right now, but maybe to get her back." And so anyway, Rebecca was the first one, so she has a little Panhandle connection as well. And man, it just kind of took off from there. You just learned the game. I didn't even play the game until I was about 35. We stuck a men's team together and played. But it was exciting. It was exciting to be not just from a Virginia Tech standpoint, but also from a softball standpoint.
It's amazing how it's just grown, and now it's just it's out of sight.
Yeah, when I started, the SEC didn't even have softball.
That's right.
So it started about 2 years after I started. So now the SEC is the top softball conference in the country. So yeah, it's come a long way.
Now you make the transition from Division I and coming to junior college, and you from Virginia Tech, you got Gulf Coast State College. Mm-hmm. What is this like for you?
Well, I never looked down my nose at coaches that were at the junior college level or anything like that, although I know that happens a lot. And so I never really thought that much about that part. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. Oh, you're going down, hey, I tell you what, the ball at this, especially in the Panhandle Conference, is very, very good. And, we're sending kids to Division I. We're just a young Division I program, We're sending so many of these kids to high D2s, Division I. Mm-hmm. So, I tell you, when I got here, I felt very comfortable right away. When we got into practices, it just kind of got back in the old routine. The girls were really bought in really quickly. it was just exciting to be a part of that, to have that kind of interest and see the talent we had. We had some pretty good talent, and we do right now. And so, I really never looked at it any different. Really, it's a softball job. We're still working with kids. You're still growing young people and young ladies in our case, and so I'm excited about it.
Well, the season opener is on the 31st of January. I guess Miami-Dade. It's the Clearwater Classic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a JUCO kickoff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's on a Friday. How's your team setting up right now for it? I mean, going into the season opener.
Well, Greg, that's a great question. And all I can tell you is I'm not focused on anybody but ourselves. And we're going to get a chance to see some of these kids, these other teams play. I'm not sure what to expect, really. Of course, at the junior college level, everybody's switching every, 50% of your team's leaving every year. So it's a little different from that perspective. But we're just going to go and play hard, play our ball the best way we know, which is fundamentally as strong as we can be. We're going to make mistakes. Right. We're going to learn from those mistakes, try not to make those mistakes more often. We're going to try to shut that down a little bit. But I'm excited about it. We had a good fall. We went 8-2 in the fall. We played some travel teams. We also played some junior colleges and a couple D1s. And so I tell you, what I saw, I liked, but I don't know if what I saw and what I liked is good enough or not. But we're going to see, and I think the girls are excited. I know I am. Strengths.
Did you look at the pitching and defense? Are you hitting, or can you narrow that?
Well, I think we're pretty balanced. I think we lost a pitcher from last year's team that had thrown a lot of innings last year, but I'm really excited about Brittany Krausen and Taylor Lee as our top two pitchers. I think both of them have a great command of what they're doing. Then we've got a couple other players that are position players that are also going to help us out in the circle, which is Cam Mahalis and Emily Greek. And we're going to see how it goes. We may have to pitch by committee every now and then, but I think we can hit the ball. I think defensively we're very solid. I think the first nine in particular that we're going to be able to put maybe a little bit of depth there is going to be very solid. And hey, you know what? I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be I don't know what our strengths are. I know what we could hit the ball a little bit, and we played the ball pretty well from throwing the leather around a little bit. But the pitcher's it's a pitcher's game, so they've got to step it up, and I feel good about it.
Yeah, I know that all games are important, but you have a huge slate of non-conference games before you get into Panhandle Conference play. How is this? I would say going to help you or gauge talent and get all the bad stuff out of the way or whatever, leading up to getting into what's really most important is the PCC. Isn't it?
Well, yeah, there's a couple tournaments. One, the Dothan tournament. We're playing some really good teams there. I know early we're playing Central Florida. We're playing teams like Salt Lake that has a great national reputation. Yes. Southern Idaho's got a great national reputation. Indian River, Seminole.
Right.
State, all of those have, everybody talks about, hey, how you going to beat Chipola? I've heard that ever since I've gotten here, and I was like, wait a second now. We got a bunch of people on this schedule before we play that we didn't beat last year, so we're going to worry about getting ourselves better and playing those teams and work off of that competition to try to get better as we move along. But I don't know. We're going to see. I think the girls are anxious to get out there and show what they're capable of. So we've been working on the culture piece and. And whoever's on that schedule is exactly who we're going to play, and we're going to try to win every time we go out.
Well, you do a lot of traveling. I mean, some is just up the road to Dothan, but you go to Clearwater, and you go over to Gulf Shores and Longwood, and that's good for that's good for a young ball club.
It is good. We want to, in the future, we want to host some tournaments here in Panama City Beach, and utilize what we have here, draw people down to the beach, and so we don't have to do so much traveling. It's more about the competition than the travel piece, but these tournaments, are obviously going to be tournaments that we're going to be trying to go to, especially the JUCO kickoff type of tournament or a Gulf Shores tournament, which is not, Gulf Shores is not that far.
Right.
I like our schedule, and I'm excited to see what the other teams have.
We're talking with Scott Thomas in his initial year, his first season as head coach of the Gulf Coast Lady Commodores softball team. Coach's Corner, sponsored by Sweet Bay. You kind of guy that seems, you got here in the fall, and you seem like what they used to refer to in baseball. Actually started this, even though use it in other sports. A player's coach. You know, a player's coach. A guy that relate, that the players can relate to. I mean, respect, but they can also maybe joke around with,
Well, I hope so. I hope they feel comfortable to be able to do that. We certainly, there's a separation. There's definitely, I'm here and they're there, and we're not best buddies, but we're gonna make sure that we do things the right way there. My staff has been great about that too. Tanai Tucker that I brought in. Tanai's got D1 experience, played at UNC Charlotte. She does a great job. The girls can go to her, if they need to, or if they feel uncomfortable coming to me as a male coach. But my door's always open. Bob Thayer has been doing this for a long time. Bob is my pitching coach now. He is right here in Panama City, back handling our pitchers as a volunteer assistant. And that's one thing people said. I said, hey, if we got a pitching coach right here local, I was like, I want them. I just soon let them deal with the pitchers, and then I can deal with other things. So I'm excited about the staff, but that has a lot to do with dealing with the girls and people that have been there and done that. Obviously, Bob has done it for years and years and years, as I've done it for a long time. So I hope that the girls feel comfortable around us, and then when I have to, get after them a little bit, that I can do that, and that they are respectful of that as well.
It's funny you mentioned Bob Thayer's name, man. We go back to the, I guess, early 90s when it was the transition to fast pitch.
Right.
This is over, holy mackerel, how many years has it been? But he was...
Probably about 25 years.
At least.
So, yeah.
But he was the guy that came in and nurtured these ladies.
That's right.
Introduced them to that.
Yeah, sure did. So we brought him back. So he's enjoying it. He's enjoying it. He kind of comes in on his own schedule and is very excited about it, and the girls enjoy working with him. So It's been very good.
Panhandle Conference. Of course, you mentioned Japola earlier, but Gulf Coast is always in there. It is really a competitive league.
Yeah,
and it's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, the interesting part to me is that there's a lot of base talent here in the Panhandle, Southern Alabama, Southern Georgia, and I know we're going to be stretching out. We have a kid coming in from the Netherlands next year. I know Chipola has used kids from different countries, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Netherlands, whatever. But the base of the talent around here, there's a lot of kids to go around, and so. That leads to a competitiveness. If you're in an area with the talent, it's kind of like the Pac-12 was for all those years. As they were dominated because they had all the best fast pitch talent was out there. Well, that's not the way it is anymore, and the game is developed. And man, there's so many kids around here, and they want to stay here. They want to go to Gulf Coast, and that's exciting for us from a recruiting standpoint.
Hey, we're excited about bringing you the Coach's Corner this year in the 2020 season, and following the Gulf Coast Lady Commodores. Scott Thomas, what a pleasure, man. It'd be great talking with you the next few weeks.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it, Greg.
Absolutely. 2020 season's underway, and the Coach's Corner from Gulf Coast State College, sponsored by Sweet Bay.
Programming on 90.7 WKGC and the Commodore Sports Network is sponsored by Sweet Bay. Sweet Bay is a bayfront village in Panama City that features parks, walking trails to the water, a future town center, and more. A community connected at the water's edge, Sweet Bay. More information about Sweet Bay online at sweetbayfl.com or 844-35-SWEET.
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Coach's Corner from Gulf Coast State College. I'm Greg Sherrod, and we're getting into the baseball and softball season here at Gulf Coast State College. And on the Coach's Corner with us now is head baseball coach of the Commodores, Mike Kandler. There's not much else to say when it comes to introducing Mike Kandler.
Well, Greg, you and I go way back. back to the early 90s. So we've done a couple of these in different settings, and I think the one thing that hasn't changed is both of us still probably have a face for radio, but here we are on TV. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
It is. It's the same here, and I've noticed too that there has been a lot of aging going on. We look pretty 25 years, with the exception of a few.
Clean living. That's all. I think that's all we can say.
Pretty much, yeah. Yep. I would say, yeah. Mike is his 15th season as head coach. Man, that's really flown by.
Oh, it's really gone quickly. I think back to when Dr. Holdnack was actually a VP at the time, and he's actually the one after the interview that called me and said they were going to bring me back as the head coach. It seems like it was yesterday. Sitting in my kitchen, he called me on. We had this thing called the landline back in those days, and he called me. And said they wanted to offer me the job, and of course Lynn and I were excited to come back. She was raised here in the Panhandle up in Chipley, and this is kind of a place that we had opportunity to raise our two youngest children, Tori and Ty, here. So it's really been a good thing, but it's gone quick. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we first met when you were the pitching coach.
Correct.
Under Darren Mazeroski in the early 90s.
Correct. My first year was under Bill Frazier.
That's right.
Yep, the very first year, and then Coach Frazier had a heart attack and passed away at the end of that year, and Maz took over, and I was his assistant for 2 years. So, and that even, that's just amazing. That doesn't seem that long ago, and it's getting to be a long time ago. Some of those guys that we coached then, I stay in touch with a little bit, and shoot, they're pushing 50 years old now.
No kidding.
It's kind of,
That's hard to believe. Some of those guys, too, you guys coach, went on to the bigs.
We had a good collection of players then, and that's one of the unique things that Gulf Coast has so much tradition in its athletics and in the baseball program in particular. It's really been successful. I don't have the records, but it's like 3 losing seasons in 55 years. It's professional players, major league players. We just had a guy about a month ago, Will Smith, signed for $39 million with the Atlanta Braves to pitch out of their bullpen. So it's been a good tradition. Been very fortunate to be a part of it.
Well, you start the 2020 season coming in. I know very optimistic, of course, always. But you will play your first conference game, but won't be until the 17th of February. In the meantime, you got these pre-conference games. How's that help you out?
Well, it really baseball is kind of a game that you have to get a rhythm established. So we need to play X amount of games. One, to figure out who can do what type of rotations, who matches up well against who, that sort of a thing. And you really got to iron out the kinks. And it's kind of usually early season baseball is kind of ugly, even if you go all the way down to all the way up to the major league level. You go watch spring training games, they're not pretty to look at sometimes, but so that's kind of what it is, figuring out lineup combinations, getting guys used to certain roles, and we're playing a very competitive schedule. So a lot of these teams are very similar to the caliber of talent that you're going to see in the Panhandle Conference, which of course is as good as anywhere in the country.
No kidding. You were talking about getting off to a mediocre start. You remember the Earl Weaver Orioles of from the early 70s all the way to that decade.
Sure.
Yeah, they'd be like 8-16.
Always.
Or whatever.
But then somehow he threw 4 or 5 guys out of that starting rotation that lost like 3 more games all year, and they all won 20 apiece and that sort of thing. But I mean, you really got to look at it that way, that the first 10, 12, 15 games, whatever it is in a college season, you're just kind of, it's like if it's a boxing match, you're feeling the other guy out, trying to figure out what we have, what they have, that sort of a thing. And then at some point you want to be hitting your stride as conference approaches. So there's a sort of a sense of timing to it. Sometimes you get that right, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. What do you like best about this squad?
So far, the best part of this team is that we've been a good team. In terms of they like each other. That's important at the junior college level. Sometimes you get teams that, you're bringing in guys from all over the place, and you don't have a lot of continuity on our level. It's a 2-year deal, so people say, well, you lose half your team every year. Actually, it's about 3/4 of your team, because you get freshmen that move on or whatever. So you don't bring back a real big nucleus. So you don't know always exactly how they're going to blend. But these guys really seem to get along. They work extremely hard. So I think we have a good sense of team, which sometimes can carry you. From a skill standpoint, I think when it's all said and done, it's going to turn into a very good offense. We're big, we're physical, bigger and more physical than we've been in a while. and I think it might be an offensive type of a team this year. Pitching staff is going to be more by committee. We've had some great ones. I've been lucky that we've just had some really talented guys like Will Smith we just talked about, Nick Nelson, local player from Rutherford that just got put on the 40-man roster with the Yankees. Matt Foster just got put on the 40-man roster with the White Sox. Those guys were front line, give them the ball, go do your thing, I'm going to go take a nap or clean the dugout or something, and when the game's over, wake me up, because they were that talented. I don't know if this staff is going to be like that. This one's a little more by committee, but I think it's deep. So I think we've got maybe not great on the front end, but I think we've got a lot of really good college caliber pitchers. So that'll be interesting.
I know nostalgia is going to have to come into this. I can't help it. But you just struck a nerve when you talked about the alumni and the guys that Tim Davis.
Yeah,
and
he's still over in Bristol. He'd probably be watching this show.
Yeah, right. Play with Pinella, Luke Pinella with Seattle.
Yeah,
and
quickly.
Yeah,
here to Florida State, almost straight to the big leagues. So I mean, it's just been a lot of those sorts of things. You know, that's the good news, that we have those sorts of talented players that come through this program. The bad news is, so do the people we play against. Yeah. A lot of people, I think, in the area or new to the area or whatever, I don't think they realize just how good the athletics are here at Gulf Coast and in the Panhandle Conference. And I mean across the board. I mean, I think if they come out Saturday and watch us play basketball against Chipola, 2 o'clock start for the women, 4 o'clock for the men, you're watching Division I basketball. They just aren't there yet. Yeah. Same thing with the baseball. You're watching future big leaguers, future minor league players. I tell recruits, you know, they like to big league you, like, geez, you know, I don't know, I might be too good for junior college. Well, if you're better than Jose Bautista, and you're better than Lorenzo Cain, and you're better than Will Smith that just got $39 million, then I agree with you. You probably are too good, but if the Braves haven't given you $39 million, or you haven't led the American League in home runs, or you didn't just win a Gold Glove in center field, maybe you're not too good for our league.
Yeah. I didn't want to overlook some of the alumni.
No, the alumni. It's just been a who's who over the years.
I was thinking I'd seen on the golf course not more than, I don't know if you might, Kevin Humphreys.
Oh yeah, he was one of the.
Who pitched at Auburn, or here, and went to Auburn, went to College World Series.
College World Series, pitched up to AA with the Angels, and then he actually came back and helped me as coach. But I coach Hump here, and I mean it. You know, you just go back. Kevin could dot up a slider whenever he wanted it, and it was sharp, and nobody could hit it, and he was just. You know, all those guys, they were just so darn competitive back in those days, and world's changed a little bit, but the competitiveness of the guys back in that era was just ridiculous.
Oh, no kidding, no kidding. And the local talent here, you touched on that briefly, but there's, you know, you don't always have to go, you know, South Florida or out of state. There's dudes here that can play. Well,
no, I'm fortunate. The sport I coach, we can always get good local players. The downside of that is we can't get them all. I mean, we have a roster limit, and that's kind of what you can get. I can't have 12 shortstops out here. Yeah. But we've been fortunate that a lot of our recruiting can be done, you know, right around here. We've got, I think, 4 guys from Mosley High School on our roster right now, 4 of our 23. So, you know, we start there with the recruiting always. We always want to start local. And we wouldn't ever recruit a player because they're from Panama City, but we wouldn't not recruit them, you know, for that same thing, for the same reason. So we're lucky they're good enough, and some of our best players over the years have been from right here in Panama City. So that's kind of fun.
It is. Assistant, guys on the bench with you?
Yeah, that was interesting. That my top assistant, Addison Braswell, kind of terrible timing, but great opportunity for him. Was able to take a new job, basically January 1 at Charleston Southern University. So he felt like it was an opportunity he had to jump on. And that's part of what we do here as well with coaches and players. We got to move them on. And so we hired, I got very fortunate that a friend of mine that's been coaching for a long time named Chris Rose, been a head junior college coach, really successful for a lot of, you know, a lot of different reasons to why this happened. But he was available and said he'd like to come in and get back into it. So he's going to be one of our assistants. And then we got a young guy named Jake Schuster that came here from Clemson, where he was a student coach at Clemson. And he's really extremely valuable. A lot of what we do now, there's a lot more technology in the game, a lot more computerized stuff, a lot more. We have access to things that we didn't used to, spin rates, exit velocities, terms that I didn't even know what they meant 5 years ago. Well, you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I'm getting taught a few tricks by all these things by the young guys, and it's really interesting. It's more of the science of coaching as opposed to just going out there and doing your thing.
Was that like in Brad Pitt and Billy Ball?
In Moneyball?
Moneyball.
Similar. Well, because they were kind of, Billy being the general manager of the A's was one of the first guys that really got into the statistical analysis, the analytics of what really makes a baseball team win. Yeah. So that kind of opened the door that, hey, maybe it's not just batting average, earned run average, all these stats that we've all kept up with. Maybe there's some other things that are more important. Well, from there, what happened is technology caught up. And now we have a computerized machine. It's called Rapsodo. We set it right out in front of a pitcher. Pitcher throws a ball. It gives you all kinds of technological data, spin rates, how the ball moves, how the ball breaks, all these sorts of things that just add to the coaching point, to the teaching point. So a player literally now can see what his fastball does, what his curveball does, and it's really amazing. I never thought we would have things like that, but even on this level, we're using it. So.
No kidding. And it was the day. Do you still do the one where you're at the dugout and and the guy comes up and you shout down at the end of some kid may not be paying a lot of attention and say, "What did this guy do last time?"
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And kids have gotten really bad at it because and it's not their fault. It's just the way they've been raised, the way they've taught. We have technology, and I'm a believer. I love technology in some aspects. In some aspects, I think it's the end of mankind, because the more the technology thinks, the less the person's going to.
Yeah.
So in the old days, players were very, very tuned into what everybody on that field did. Now they're kind of waiting on some machine or something to tell them. That being said, we can get much more detailed scouting reports than we used to be able to because of some of this technology. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Right. It's kind of like vinyl records and going to the CD or something. I mean.
But guess what? We're back to vinyl, man.
We get back to vinyl. I mean, let's say we're listening to the Doobie Brothers, what were once Vices Are Now Habits album. Now, now, of course, when that's sounding really good with today's technology, but every once in a while, I like to go back and hear that crackling sound of the vinyl.
Well, the vinyl was good, and it's like I'll remember the time when my son found my record collection that my wife somehow had shoved somewhere in the back closet, and he said, "Dad, why are your CDs so big?" And I went, well, because we used to have a big CD player. That's how that worked. So, but it's very similar. Things have changed, but at the end of the day, you use the Doobie Brothers analogy, and if you can play a guitar and you can play the drums and you can do those sorts of things, good is good. Yeah. Technology is not making the musicians. Technology is not making the ball players.
Right.
But it does help as far as a teaching thing, and it's just different.
Yeah, and it's a positive.
It really is, and you can't become the entire pie, but it's a nice piece.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, next time maybe we will get more into personnel of a band, and we'll go into the band like the Doobies, were they better or not with or without Mike McDonald? Where did it go with that?
Or was Mike McDonald better or not without the Doobies? That's a whole other show right there.
Right there. That's for the future. But for now, we wrap things up. Mike Kandler, ladies and gentlemen, the head baseball coach at Gulf Coast State College and the Commodores in the 2020 season. I'm Greg Sherrod. We thank you for watching Coach's Corner from Gulf Coast State College. We'll see you next time.
This has been Coach's Corner with your host, James Baxley.